The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I have a different microphone today. We're testing what if I go back to my large radio-style microphone. Will the show sound better? If you're listening to the show on the podcast, let me know, does it sound better? And if you're watching, does this look ridiculous or not? Because we've had a number of different issues raised regarding microphone noise and just different issues. So we are running a test. We are running I guess it's a one-day test for now. I don't really know how long of a test it is, but I have this microphone here, Lewis. What do you think?
I think it's worth a shot.
It's my buddy. It'll be hanging out with me throughout today's show.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope you two hit it off.
Welcome to everybody who's watching live, including everybody from the I Love It When I Wake Up in the Morning and Barack Obama is President page, the We Survive Bush, You'll Survive Obama Facebook page, and all other Facebook pages that are liberal or otherwise. Welcome. Welcome to everybody. New York has passed the first major gun control law since the Newtown massacre. Of course, conservatives are absolutely flipping out because of it. This is considered, I guess it's being colloquially called the toughest gun control law in the nation, and it expands the state's assault weapons ban. It addresses gun ownership by those with mental illnesses. It does a lot of different things, and we'll go through exactly what it does. It passed the state assembly 104 to 43 after passing the state senate 43 to 18. Now, Lewis, before we get into the meat of it, when you hear of something like this passing broadly, do you get the sense that it will do anything to curb gun violence, or do you say, Ed, most of these things are figurative?
Well, I mean, it can only help, right? I mean, if it saves one life, it helps. Is that how we gauge this?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, what is the standard?
I don't know.
So what does this bill do? It does a number of different things. It bans possession of high-capacity magazines no matter when they were made or sold. In other words, they will not be grandfathered in. Clips holding only up to 7 rounds can be sold in New York State. It requires ammunition dealers to do background checks, similar to those for gun buyers. Dealers have to report sales, including amounts, to the state. Internet sales of ammunition are allowed, but they have to be shipped to a licensed dealer in New York State for pickup. You have to create a registry of all assault weapons. It requires therapists that think mental health patients are a credible threat to others. If they have made threats that are credible of harming others, they have to report this to a mental health director who has to then report it to the state's Department of Criminal Justice Services. It says that any stolen gun must be reported within 24 hours. It also tightens the description of an assault weapon, and it requires a background check for all gun sales, including private dealer sales. So let me just pick out the ones I think are good things here and that will actually make a difference. Requiring background checks for all sales, including private dealers, I think is very important, because this is this gun show loophole that we hear a lot about. I think that that's key.
Of course.
Also, I think that stipulating mandatory gun reporting within 24 hours is absolutely key. And it really goes along the lines of what we talked about earlier in the week of potential liability insurance for firearms owners. The idea that you have to make the owner responsible for whatever happens with the gun. And if it was stolen, it has to be reported right away. If you're on vacation, it's stolen from a home where you aren't, something like that. Okay, I can understand that there would be exceptions to this, but I think that mandatory theft reporting is important.
It is.
I don't think that expanding the definition or tightening the description of an assault weapon really I don't think that the definition of assault weapon is where the solution is to the gun problem in this country, Natan. I just really don't.
Excuse me. I think that if it were done on a national level, it would be effective over time, probably not immediately, just because there are so many guns already in the market. But after a while, they would start to dry up. But the fact that New York is doing it, on the one hand, guns can still flow in from out of state.
Right.
On the other hand, I'm assuming that most of the crimes are committed by New York residents, and this would have an effect on that.
Interestingly enough, Lewis, one of the most controversial components of this law is this mandatory mental health reporting by mental health professionals. So there are critics that are saying this is unprecedented and it is draconian, and some conservative critics are saying this is essentially deputizing doctors or I guess, many mental health professionals, most actually, are not psychiatrists, they're not doctors. And Art Kaplan from the Medical Ethics Division of NYU's Langone Medical Center says this is just not the case. He says for decades, mental health workers have already had an ethical obligation to report those they think pose a clear and present danger to others, to the police, and to the person who has been threatened. Their code of ethics already requires them to do so. New York law only makes it clear how to report it and to whom. What do you think about the mental health reporting aspect?
I think this is important. We know in several instances of shootings, there were threats and they weren't taken seriously. So I think this is huge in preventing mass shootings and murders.
What we have to tackle is the fact that many people will never even come into contact with the mental health system and therefore would never even figure anywhere in this.
Right. So this is if someone who happens to be seeing a psychologist, a shrink, if you will, yeah, I mean, the chances are slim, but it could, in theory, prevent some murders.